So, what is your opinion on the chemical castration of sex offenders? Welcome back, dear YouTube viewers and Spotify listeners. Today we have a special person, José Lozano, who is an expert on the pharma sector, and today we will be discussing the topic of chemical castration. So thank you, José, for being here and tell us something about your pharmaceutical career.
Thank you, Leo, for having me here, and thank you for taking account of my work. I've been working for almost 19 years in the pharmaceutical industry, mostly marketing. I've been working as a business unit manager and a product manager, which means I manage different products that are supposed to be prescribed from doctors to patients in order to improve their quality of life or even save them. So after all these years, I think I have a couple of pointers to give you about chemical castration. That it's a topic that goes around medicines that truncates the sexual drive. It's almost like medicine for sexual offenders, if you want to call it that.
So this only worked whilst they were taking the pills. Like after that, it was just like normal?
Yes, that's why this treatment was quite popular among men, testicular cancer patients. But I don't think it's quite a good choice for sex offenders, because it depends on if the sex offender will be adherent and complying with the treatment. That you can never predict that, in my opinion.
Okay, well, before continuing, we have to remember you that Gold Cafe is the sponsor for our podcast. Be sure to take the deal of 25 discount percent on new products. Alright, so now to the main question. Jose, do you agree with the chemical castration of sex offenders, or do you think it should be avoided, or maybe even another alternative?
I'm not quite sure. I think there are some positive points on it and some negative points. So I think it depends on the government, the society, when you want to deploy this technique to reduce sex offenders. But the short answer will be no. The long answer will be maybe. Because there are some failures in this proposal. First of all, you depend on the adherence and compliance of the treatment by the sex offender. And since this is a criminal mind or a legal offender, you don't know if he's going to be compliant, he's going to go by the rules, first thing. Second thing, these drugs will only block most of it, but part of the hormone, so they still have a little sex drive. And if this patient is a mental patient, that his sex drive is driven by illness, we don't know if the treatment will completely close this window for him. Let's talk about something morbid. Let's talk about a pedophile.
Okay.
He feels sexual drive for children, so we block the hormones, the testosterone, but that only blocks sex drive. What about the pathological behavior in his mind where he finds children attractive? With the drug at that, I don't think we have enough data or enough studies to be sure about that on one side. On the other side, let's say he would one day decides to stop taking the pill because he feels better or because he misses what he used to do. We could invest with the government on like parole officers that will be monitoring the sex offenders, but that's a lot of money, tax-paid money that we pay. So with I don't know what size of mistake range, and are we conscious that this proposal with government provided paid monitor can fail also? So that means children will be molested again, or women or whatever. So it's not a very effective proposal, in my opinion.
Okay, so in my mind, I agree with you. Yes, so dealing with these sex offenders can be very expensive for the state. Yeah. So do you think it is humane to physically, traditionally castrate them so they aren't an issue anymore? Because human rights organizations and all of that stuff will come after you if you do that.
Well, that's a really polemic topic. Anybody will tell you no, it's not humane, you shouldn't do that. My personal opinion that can be very unpopular is that we should. I don't see the sense of investing our taxes in helping these people that won't be of any help to society. I think that they should be concealed in a facility, maybe a health facility, a mental health facility.
Segregated,
Totally, because they don't know if they can control their sex drive. So you have two options. You put them in jail where they cannot harm anyone else, and that's still expensive for the state. You could castrate them and guarantee that they won't be sex offenders anymore forever. But human rights organizations wouldn't agree with me. Maybe some totalitarian states in the Middle East will agree with me. Not quite sure, but you have to try to put yourself, you have to have empathy, try to put yourself in the position of someone that has been offended by one of these sex offenders, or maybe your children or your wife or your girlfriend, someone you know and love. What would you do with that person?
Yeah, that's the thing. But let's say for a hypothetical situation that someone is framed for committing one of these actions and they are physically permanently castrated when they were innocent.
That's a good point. When you think about death penalty, there has been documented cases where people was killed by the state and then they would discover they were innocent. So yeah, you've got a point there. Maybe we could design some kind of procedure or law that gives you chemical castration as a first warning for a first offender, and for a second offender you get physically castrated. So you are completely sure that this guy is guilty.
Well, that has been it, folks, and be sure to join us on next episode.